What if Anakin Skywalker turned back to the light side before Obi Wan and Padme showed up to Mustafar? That's what we're going to talk about today. I had a lot of fun writing this one. I really enjoyed it. So I hope you enjoy listening. Let's get right into it. Anakin Skywalker, now Darth Vader, was standing on the command bridge of the Mustafar Control Center, staring up at the stars above him, looking to the galaxy that he would soon rule. He held all the power. Everything was proceeding according to his plan, and yet, through it all, he couldn't shake a certain creeping sensation, a kind of cold, slimy ooze slithering through his veins, almost as though he were still afraid. The voice inside of him, the voice of Anakin, said, "She will still die, you know." Impossible, Vader thought, shaking this off. He was Darth Vader. He had no fear. He destroyed his fear. But the voice remained, and Anakin forced himself to look down at the slaughter beneath him. For the entire war, his goal was to bring the Separatist leadership to justice. But here, now, they all lay destroyed at his feet. He did this. The evil inside of him had taken over, and Vader had to accept this. But Anakin looked up as he heard something at the door. The soft, sad chirping and beeping of R2-D2. This, for Anakin, was something that he had not anticipated. R2 had been by his side since he was taken from Tatooine as a boy. He was at his wedding. He was his greatest companion in the war. R2, in a weird way, was almost like Anakin's little brother. And Anakin watched as the droid struggled to move through the room, going around bodies until R2 was finally at Anakin's side. The droid beeped, and Anakin knew R2 was asking what was going on. Why was he doing this? But Anakin looked down, telling R2 that they could never understand. This was something he had to do, to save Padme. And Anakin said, "I wish I could make you understand, but I'm not going back. Nothing can make me change my mind." And R2 turned his head, then played an old, recorded message. It was a message Padme had discreetly sent R2 while Anakin was fighting in the Outer Rim. It was a message that Anakin had played often, and one that always reminded Anakin why he was a Jedi, why Padme loved Anakin, and why Anakin was good despite all of his flaws. The hologram of Padme went on with her saying that Anakin is the only Jedi that she could ever love, because he is different than the rest, because he has a truly good heart. She continued on, talking to Anakin. Padme told Anakin that he needs to be a Jedi. She said, saving people is what Anakin was born for, and to take that away from him would cripple every good thing in his troubled heart. Anakin listened to that last part, how he was born to save lives, how Padme loved him because he was good, because he was Anakin Skywalker. And he fell to his knees, looking around the room. The Separatist leadership was one thing, perhaps a forgivable thing, but what about the Jedi Temple? She could never forgive him for that. And then something clicked. The Jedi Temple was stormed and overtaken with ease. Anakin didn't need to be there, but Sidious said Anakin's presence cemented him in the dark side. What it really cemented was the end of Padme being able to love him. Anakin put his head in his hands, thinking now that Sidious was always one step ahead of him. He promised to save Padme, but in that promise, Anakin had to die, and would never be able to be with her. He had to become Darth Vader, an unlovable man. And Anakin put a hand on R2 now, thanking him, and said he would do whatever he could to make up for what he has done. This was wrong. And Anakin looked up, tears in his eyes, to see the silver ship of Padme Amidala. The ship landed, and Anakin ran to it, meeting her at the bottom of the ramp, and joining in a hug that reminded him of everything that was good. He was powerful enough to save her from dying. He would save her, but not at the expense of himself any longer. And Padme went on, saying that Obi Wan told her that he has done terrible things, and now Anakin had to face the consequences. He backed away from her, turned around, saying that he has done these terrible things. He has made these terrible mistakes. Anakin said it was true, all of it, and he told Padme that he fell down a terrible, dark path trying to save her, but he said he will do whatever he can now to correct it. Padme was crying, shaking her head, and it shattered Anakin to his core. She had every right to be upset. And then a new voice rang out, the voice of Obi-Wan Kenobi, ringing out from the ship, asking Anakin if he truly meant this. Does he truly regret his actions? Is he willing to do what it takes to try and make up for them? A new anger lit up inside of Anakin. Obi-Wan was here, likely to kill him. But again, Anakin had to push Vader away. Obi-Wan was doing what he had spent an entire war doing, trying to destroy the Sith. But Obi-Wan was not a killer, not when he didn't have to be, and so, as a sign of belief in his former student, Obi-Wan left his lightsaber on the ship, walking down the ramp to meet Anakin. Obi-Wan could feel in the Force that Anakin was broken, remorseful, and though he could never truly forgive Anakin, he could try to help him here and now. And Anakin pulled out his own lightsaber, looking down at it, remembering every atrocity that it recently caused, and then he handed it to Padme. Obi-Wan touched her shoulder and asked her to call Bail, alerting them of where they were. Padme said she would do so, and left the master and apprentice by themselves. Obi-Wan walked with Anakin along the platform, and he didn't bring up the temple or anything from the past few days. He talked calmly to Anakin, asking him to come back to Coruscant with them. They must find Yoda, help him fix everything. And Obi-Wan detailed that Yoda was fighting Sidious, and the two of them continued to talk for a long while. Eventually, Padme came running down the ramp, saying that they must leave immediately. She continued on, saying that Yoda is with Bail, and he failed to kill Palpatine. And suddenly, the Force around Mustafar was somehow even darker. Palpatine was coming here. Anakin said they should stay and fight, but Obi-Wan said that Anakin is too unstable. They would need Yoda. And soon enough, Anakin agreed, and they boarded Padme's ship. She took off and began to rise through Mustafar, off the platform, but suddenly a shuttle appeared behind them. Anakin jumped to take over the controls, but it was too late, and a barrage of fire erupted into Padme's ship, blasting the engines, and alarms began to blare as the ship spun to the lava flats below. Anakin grabbed Padme, and Obi-Wan pushed open the door. As the ship continued to spin downward, Anakin and Obi-Wan spotted a platform, jumping to it, landing on the hot ground, but surviving as the ship exploded down into the lava. And on the shuttle, Darth Sidious looked down to the explosion. He could feel the shift back to the light from Anakin, all the way from Coruscant, and so he got here as quickly as he could. Anakin could not be allowed to return and fight against him. He was powerful, and would have both Yoda and Obi-Wan by his side, so the Chosen One had to die. The clone captain looked to Sidious and asked what the next move was. Sidious felt into the Force and could still feel that the Jedi had survived, so he looked to the clones. Around 30 of them were here, and said that they must deploy to the ground, search for survivors, and kill them. The shuttle landed at the control center, where Sidious would wait, and call for many more reinforcements. Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Padme were slowly getting up, taking in their surroundings. They were beaten up, but certainly alive, and they began sneaking around the area. They were moving past Mustafar mining droids, working on many different things, when a squad of clone troopers turned the corner, spotting the trio. Anakin and Obi-Wan ignited their lightsabers, and they defended against these 10 clones. The clones had the advantage of cover, but Anakin jumped to the front, handling all of the blaster fire, while Obi-Wan used the Force behind him to move the cover away, allowing Anakin to deflect the bolts back into the clones. A few of them tried to run, but Anakin and Obi-Wan got to them before they could call for help, cutting down the men that they worked with in the war. It hurt to do, but it had become kill or be killed. And the three of them continued moving forward, trying to get to the landing platform and perhaps take Sidious's shuttle. But when Padme was suddenly hit in the shoulder by a blaster bolt, once again, the Jedi had to ignite their sabers as 10 more clones sprinted out, firing at them. Anakin jumped onto a nearby support beam, placing Padme on a nearby platform, while he and Obi-Wan once again deflected the blasts, taking out the 10 clones, and they watched as another 10 emerged. They were slowly being pushed back on the machinery, trying to get behind cover. And for Sidious, this was good. He had just called to reinforcements from the 501st on Coruscant, and they were set to arrive soon enough. But right now he had Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Padme right where he wanted them. They were on the mining equipment, and so Sidious blasted lightning onto all of the controls inside of the room. This immediately deactivated all of the support shields, causing all of the mining equipment to sink into the lava. Anakin watched as all of the remaining clones stumbled and fell into the lava below, as the platforms they were on began to shake and deactivate. They were collapsing underneath them, with nothing but lava below. Anakin frantically looked around, spotting perhaps the only stable security platform, and he jumped up to it. Once safe, he turned to help Padme and Obi Wan, but was struck with horror. In one moment, both Padme and Obi Wan fell to the lava below, with no hope of a safe landing, and so Anakin had to reach out with both hands to catch them. Anakin was here, straining to hold both of them up, and in the distance, he saw another squad of clones running over to them. Anakin would have to make a choice. He didn't have time to lift both of them up while deflecting the blaster bolts. He needed to free one hand. Sidious laughed, looking down below and seeing Anakin in pain. The boy would make a choice that would destroy him forever. But out of the corner of his eye, a new ship was arriving. As Anakin was about to make a choice and let go of one of them, heartbreaking and tears in his eyes as he watched the clones prepare to fire, something amazing happened. The clones were blasted away from a new ship, the Tantive 4, and Anakin watched as Yoda flipped from the ramp, landing next to him, and the Grand Master lifted Obi Wan, while Anakin lifted Padme to safety. Anakin fell back, breathing hard, and Obi Wan asked how Yoda knew where to find them. Then he recalled Padme speaking with Bail. Luckily, Bail and Yoda decided to come to Mustafar, and they arrived just in time. Yoda turned to Anakin, a look of disappointment covering his face, and he told Anakin that it takes strength to resist the dark side, and they will talk more after all of this. But for now, they have a mission to complete: destroy the Sith. And the three Jedi took off for the control center, while Padme boarded the Tantive 4. Sidious scowled as he watched the three Jedi approaching. These three were strong individually, but together they would be an ultimate challenge. The Grand Master, the Chosen One, and the Master of the Chosen One. But he knew that if Anakin got out of here alive, he would tell the Senate the truth about everything. He would have to kill them all. And the three Jedi entered the room, grabbing their lightsabers and circling around Sidious. There was no real need for words. Each of them knew why they were here. And as Obi Wan moved through the room, he spotted a recording button, a button that would record the entire room and save the events as a hologram. This would be vital to show the Senate who Palpatine really is. And so, he pushed the button, and the battle began. With unbelievable speed and precision, the three Jedi moved, attacking as one. Anakin's blade moved like a streak of blue lightning, Obi-Wan's strikes were swift, and Yoda moved with an agility that seemed supernatural. Sidious did fight valiantly for a while, but he soon found himself on the defensive. Anakin, eyes burning with determination to make things right, pressed the attack relentlessly. Obi-Wan and Yoda were fighting in harmony, anticipating each other's moves, and their lightsabers clashed against Sidious's red blade, sparks flying through the already damaged control room. And in a matter of minutes, the Jedi Masters, they managed to overwhelm Sidious with their combined strength. Anakin's ferocious strikes left the Sith Lord little room to counter, while Obi-Wan and Yoda exploited every opening in his defense. With a final, coordinated assault, they were able to disarm Sidious, knocking the red lightsaber to the floor. Realizing his futility, Sidious attempted to unleash Force lightning at them, but the combined might of Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Yoda was too much for him to handle. With a powerful counter, they all redirected his own attack back at him. Sidious screamed in agony as lightning consumed him, and so he put his palms to the floor, trying to kill them all. It created a giant crack in the ground that quickly gave way. The floor opened, and Sidious fell screaming to the lava, while Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Yoda were all able to jump to the ceiling, grabbing beams or ledges, hanging there as Yoda used his comm to call for Bail Organa to pick them up. Bail responded and said that they must leave quickly. Imperial reinforcements were on the way down, and many more would be coming. The three Jedi jumped down to the ship, and they took off. After a moment, though, Obi-Wan said they must stop. The recording of the fight, the one he had pushed, proof that Palpatine is a Sith, was still in the building. They would need it to show the Senate who Palpatine is. They all looked around, but Anakin knew what had to be done. This had to be up to him. So he opened the ramp, looking down to Padme, and softly said her name. She looked back and simply said, "I know." Anakin gave a smile, then flipped down to the ground below. Anakin ran into the building, grabbed the recording from what was left of the destroyed room, and left. But as he left, he was face to face with around 30 newly landed clone reinforcements. Anakin grabbed his lightsaber and shrugged as if to say, "Let's do this," and ran right through them. Anakin sprinted through the squad, cutting down some, deflecting countless blaster bolts, and using the Force to keep them at bay. Soon enough, Anakin cleared through the squad as more clones were arriving to reinforce, and he had a clear view of the Tantive 4. He was about to jump, but suddenly, 2 clone transport ships blew out the platform Anakin was on, and Anakin had to jump back. He was stranded. He watched as the Tantive 4 turned around and opened its ramp for Anakin to try to jump, but at the same time, Anakin looked into the distance to see 10 more clone transports flying this way. He had to face reality. There was no way for him to get through all of these clone troopers and get aboard the Tantive 4 before overwhelming reinforcements arrive, destroying them all. So Anakin looked down to the recording device, then looked to Obi Wan standing on the ramp in the distance, and Anakin threw the device as far as he could, guiding it into Obi Wan's hand. Once it was safe, Anakin gripped his lightsaber and prepared to go down fighting. The 2 clone transports turned to destroy the Tantive 4, but Anakin used one hand to slow them down with the Force, while using the other to deflect blaster bolts from clones at every direction. This was it. And on board the Tantive 4, Padme looked down, then made the decision no one wanted to. They had to leave right now, or else Anakin's sacrifice would be for nothing. He was holding back the reinforcements. He was allowing them to escape. So she fought through her sadness and took off for space. Anakin down below felt a blaster bolt sear his shoulder, but he kept fighting. Then his side, and then his thigh, but he kept fighting. The clones were closing in, and then a bolt seared right through Anakin's heart. He looked up to the sky, seeing the Tantive 4 escape, and he let himself go, dying as he fell to the lava down below. Days later, Chancellor Padme Amidala has restored the Republic by providing proof that Palpatine was a Sith Lord with the recording. The Republic was restored, and she eventually gave a safe birth to children. These 2 children, Luke and Leia, would grow to be the pride of the rebuilding Jedi Order, serving as beacons of hope that the Order could someday return to its full glory. Obi Wan would train Leia, while Yoda would take on his final apprentice, Luke, before eventually passing on and allowing Obi Wan to be Grand Master, while Padme was Chancellor, and R2-D2 in Anakin's honor formed a great bond with Luke and Leia. And folks, that's where our story ends today. I wanted to do something where R2-D2 plays a huge role in bringing Anakin back. Let me know what you thought of it. They had a great connection in the Clone Wars, so I thought it could be fun to try. So, hope you enjoyed. And yeah, I killed Anakin. We're killing Anakin a lot these days. Sorry. Oops. Anyways, thanks for watching. I appreciate you. And I'll see you in the next video.